Hi everyone, this is just a quick video taking you through paper 2 of the English language qualification. Specifically, we're going to focus on the paper Writer's Viewpoint and Perspective, which is the AQA paper, and we're going to understand how to approach question 5, which is how to write an article. So we know that this year an article is definitely going to come up on the GCSE exam. So over the next few lessons, we're just going to look at a few different questions that might come up and get you used to actually knowing how to write your response. Look at the exam question and attempts at the challenges that follow. So the question we're going to focus on today is TV shows like Top Boy normalise violence and are a bad example for young people. Write an article for your school magazine where you express your viewpoint on this statement. And we have a number of challenges here on the right hand side. So the first one is identify the TAP or the TAP of the exam question. Super challenge. I always think about the fact that this question is worth 40 marks. So what are the marks actually awarded for? What kind of things do you need to include in the response? And the mega challenge, what is meant by the term colloquial language? And how does this apply to the question that we're just going to look at now? Class feedback. Check your answers against the ones below. So the first one that we just looked at there, the challenge, we were thinking about the TAP of the question. The TAP stands for the topic, the audience and the purpose. So first of all, the topic is all about TV and TV programs and violence. The next one, the audience, teenagers or a school magazine. You'll notice there that I've put school magazine in parentheses or brackets, and that is because if it is a school magazine, although the primary target audience is going to be that of teenagers and young people, it might also be something that is read by other people who are associated with the school as well, be it parents or also the teachers that work at the school as well. And a purpose. Use methods to express your own point of view on this topic. So this is actually a really good one to practice when you actually get towards doing your GCSE exams. You need to be able to show that you have a really good understanding of English language and that you know how to use all of those techniques in order to express your own viewpoint. So this question is a really good one to get some practice in on. The super challenge then. So the question is worth 40 marks. The paper as a whole is worth 80. So you can understand why question 5 is so vitally important. But what do you actually get your marks for? So it can be broken down like this. So we have 24 marks for the content and the organisation. When we're talking about the content here, we're talking about the ideas that you're expressing and how these are supported with specific techniques or author's methods to help make it engaging for the reader. When we say organisation, we're talking about how can you use structure, things like paragraphs, things like headings, subheadings, interesting sentence structures as well, to make your writing more engaging. And then we have 16 marks for technical accuracy. So this is where you'll get marked on your spelling, your grammar and your punctuation. So if you're not too sure about using different forms of punctuation, I highly recommend that you go back and you revise some of these things. Also, if spelling is a bit of an issue, it's very important that you get some practice before the exam as well. Final one then, mega challenge. So colloquial language, this is a form of informal language. It's often used in less formal settings and often is used between friends and peers. So if you think about the exam question that we were just focusing on, colloquial language might be quite important. If you're talking to teenagers and you yourself are a teenager, chances are that you're going to use quite informal language, and this is actually a really good thing to use in terms of breaking down barriers and forming a connection and actually communicating effectively with your audience. So what is colloquial language and how can it be used effectively? So colloquial language is the linguistic style used for casual communication. It is the most common functional style of speech, the idiom normally employed in conversation and other informal context. Okay, so it's the thing that we kind of use in more day-to-day life. How can it be used effectively? Colloquial language is used in informal writing situations and creates a conversational style. Everyday spoken language gives your writing a casual, relaxed effect, so it's really important that you use this but use it appropriately. So we don't mean that when you're using colloquial language that you use bad language. You wouldn't swear or curse in it because that is giving your writing the wrong tone. but colloquial language is important to suggest a kind of relaxed and less formal tone, which can be quite effective towards your audience. Look at the article and think carefully about the writer's viewpoint. So if you think about paper 2 as a whole, the whole thing is about the writer's viewpoints and their perspectives, and it's going to be on any kind of topic that you might come up against in the exam. So when you're reading it, it's important that you read it very carefully, you pay attention to any techniques or methods that are being used to express their viewpoint, and you try and read between the lines and make some inferences about what they're really trying to say or communicate. So here's our article then. Are TV shows making us more violent? We live in the golden age of television. With platforms such as Netflix, Amazon, and Apple Play, there is an ultimate choice of non-stop, action-packed entertainment at our fingertips. However, this has caused our youth to be overwhelmed by programs that promote violence and drug use. In 2022, the National Crime Statistic reported an increase in crimes by a massive 32%. We cannot allow poor programming to manipulate our future leaders. Violent programs. Programs like Peaky Blinders and Top Boy encourage young people to go out in the streets and commit crimes in order to get an illusion of success. These programs must be banned right now and replaced with more wholesome, family-friendly programs that we can all enjoy. Now, whenever you're faced with a text within the paper 2 assessment, it's really important that you think, what is this person's viewpoint on the topic? Now, the topic is very similar to the one that we were looking at previously, so I want you to think carefully about what they're trying to communicate. See if you can identify any language techniques, any DeForest techniques, or any Go Massive techniques, if that's the acronym you're more comfortable with, and see how they're conveying their point of view. What we're going to do now is we're going to use this information and try and apply it to a few questions just to test your understanding. If you do need to go back and have a look at this article in more depth, then please feel free to do so. Think about the writer's viewpoint and the methods that is used to express his ideas. So if we have a look at question 1 then, it says, which of the following words best describes the feelings or the tone of the writer? And you can choose from these following words. So detached, aggressive, and passionate. If you're not too sure what these words mean, it's very important that you go back and you research or look up these words, because when you come to think about the tone of the writer, it's a lot more complicated than just saying, are they happy or are they sad? We're quite complex in terms of our emotional capacity, so it does have quite a wide range in terms of the emotions we feel. When you've done that one, have a go at question 2. So identify a quotation that conveys this tone. So whatever tone you identified from the first question, you need to try and find a quotation to support that idea. Number 3. Identify where the writer has used a discourse marker to express their viewpoint. Now, discourse markers are really important and they help us to structure and organise our writing. So have a look back, see which word might be there as an indicator to show a little bit of structure in the ideas that have been expressed. Number 4. What presentational or organisational features have been used in the article? And number 5, last one. What has the writer used plosives or alliteration to express their viewpoint? So if you're not too sure what we mean by this, alliteration is the repetition of the same letter in 2 or more words. Plosives is a little bit more of a sophisticated form of alliteration. Typically you get it more in poetry, and that is the repetition of a P or a B sound to add a little bit more emphasis. If you'd like to pause the video now, if you'd like to go through the questions in your own time, please feel free to do so. We're now going to go ahead and have a look at the answers. Class feedback. Check your answers against the ones below. So for number 1, the writer has used an aggressive tone to express his viewpoint on the topic. Number 2, in the article, the writer states, these programs must be banned. The use of the imperative must is forceful and aggressive. Number 3, the writer has used a discourse marker, however, to express his viewpoint. Now this is a really good thing to be aware of, especially when you're thinking about structuring your response. A word like however is a fantastic discourse marker because it allows us to say that now what we're going to do is we're going to consider another side of the argument. So you're going to take your ideas or your viewpoint in a slightly different direction, or you're going to consider the other side of an argument. Number 4. Headlines and subheadings have been used to organise the article. Now this year we know 100% that you will definitely be doing an article for your paper 2 question 5, so if you're not using subheadings and headlines in your actual response, you're going to be missing out on some vital marks. Number 5. The writer has used plosives in the line poor programming. So it's alliteration but also plosives as well, and you can kind of hear it here with the p kind of sound that we get with poor programming, and it's been used there just to emphasize that this person doesn't think that the things that are on TV are necessarily a good example for people who are watching it. Using author's methods effectively. Look at the sentence starters below and improve each one with an appropriate author method. So now what we're going to look at is we've got 3 different sentence starters that you can use to start thinking about actually writing your response for the exam question. If we look at each one, however, these are only things to get us started. They don't have any great technique or anything particularly that is going to get them massive marks in the exam. So what we need to think about is how can these be improved in order to actually get us more marks in the exam. So number 1, TV is not to blame for people being violent. Okay, so it makes quite a good point, probably a point that a lot of people would have themselves, but what could you add to that? What technique could you add to it in order to make that an effective sentence starter? Number 2, violent TV shows should or should not be banned because I believe. So with that one there, because we've stated I believe, it's very clear that what we're about to express is an opinion. So all you need to do from that one is decide whether you do believe or don't believe that they should be banned, and then try and explain your justification for such a thought. Number 3 is actually using what we call a professional opinion, and we're also using this to help be a little bit more creative and think outside the box. So David Walcott of the University of Oxford states, and then give up a quotation that might help support your ideas. Now this person, David Walcott, is not a real person, it is someone I've just made up just to come up with a few ideas and make it seem like a real professional organisation or a real professional in this industry has actually came forward and gave his point of view on it. And this helps give validity and a little bit of strength to your argument. There's absolutely nothing wrong with making up facts and statistics for your writing. No one's expecting you to have researched the topic inside and out because you don't really know which one is going to come up in the assessment. If you're struggling to start, then we'll have a few examples on the next part of the video just to help you get started. Again, all of this can be used in your own writing as well. Class feedback. Check your answers against the ones below. So we're going to look at the same sentence starters that we had a moment ago, but instead what I've done is I've gone away and I've thought about how can I use these sentence starters to put them into a few of the ideas I had and start structuring my response. So first one then. TV is not to blame for people being violent. 90% of people watch TV for relaxation. So you could go further in that and saying, you know, it's not really about just watching TV, it's about what you watch, right? There are a lot of programs on there that aren't all about violence or drugs or anything like that. A lot of them look at things that are a lot more relaxing and pleasant as well. Okay, again, with this 90%, what I've done is I've used a statistic here. I've made one up just because it helps justify my point of view. It's always good to go around 90% because that makes it sound a little bit believable. Anything less makes it seem that it's not that convincing as well. Number 2, violent TV shows should not be banned because I believe we cannot shield people from the realities of the real world. Okay, this would again be a very kind of common or typical idea expressed by quite a few people. So if it is something that you believe yourself, it is something you could use as one of your potential ideas when you come to write your full response. Number 3. David Walcott of Oxford University states, it is scientifically proven that TV shows help people to develop their concentration skills and improve academically. Now again, I've got no idea whether this is correct or not, but because it's come from someone at Oxford University, a very prestigious university, it's giving my idea a little bit of validity, and also it helps my argument of saying that TV doesn't actually make us violent. In fact, it could make you potentially have better concentration, and depending on what you watch, might help you improve academically as well. Look back at the exam question and use the success criteria to start planning your response. So if we think back to the question that we looked at earlier, TV shows like Top Boy normalise violence and a bad example for young people. Write an article for your school magazine where you express your viewpoint on this statement. So before we kind of jump into the success criteria, let me just explain that the only reason why I've actually given you a name of a TV show like Top Boy is just because it is something that a lot of people are into at the moment. It isn't going to be something they're going to actually be too specific about during your exam, so don't worry if you don't know anything about the TV show. I'm just using it as an example, so maybe you've seen it, maybe you haven't, but all we mean is the kind of TV shows that generally have a lot of violence or crime or something like that. Now if we take a look at the success criteria then, there's a number of different things that we need to include in our writing. So first of all, you need to make sure that your response has been written in the form of an article. So does it have a headline? Does it have a subheading? These are really good features to use to help organise your ideas, especially when it comes to subheadings, because you can use that then for each individual paragraph as well. You need to make sure that you have written 5 clear paragraphs with a clear focus in each one. If you find yourself writing your paragraph and you're starting to talk about something else, you're starting to waffle or run out of ideas, then that is the time when you need to finish that paragraph and start another one to actually keep your reader engaged in your writing. Use a variety of language techniques effectively. So when we mean language techniques, we could of course just say added forest techniques, but hopefully from your studies with English that you know there are several different types of language techniques that you can use, not just the de forest techniques as well. So any techniques that you can think of or that you use naturally in your own writing should be employed in this question as well. And the final thing, use spelling, grammar and punctuation effectively. Remember, we get 16 marks for technical accuracy, so it's really important that we do not neglect this area of the marks. A good thing to do is just to spend 5 minutes at the end of your exam and just go back over, read, review and make sure that you've done all the things that are necessary to get a good mark. Use a student example and the teacher feedback to begin your response. So now what we're going to look at is a real life example that's written by another student, and we're going to see whether this is effective or if there's anything that we need to do to change it and improve it to get a better grade in the exam. So first of all then it says, TV trauma. Are TV shows affecting the way we behave? TV shows have been an important part of all of our lives. Through it we have experienced joy, sadness and even horror as we watched glued to the screen. However, does this have a negative impact? A recent study from Oxford University stated that 90% of teenagers these days feel more angry, frustrated, and are more prone to violence than ever before. Many people believe it is due to seeing violent shows, but can we really blame this on the innocent little box that sits in our living rooms? Or are other things to blame? TV, a history of violence. Firstly, how can anyone think violence on TV is a new thing? And we can see there from the use of the ellipses, the ... there, that is where the response cuts off. So obviously the response is going to be extended from this. It should be 5 full paragraphs, but we can kind of get an idea or a gist of where the candidate is trying to go with it. So teacher feedback. So first of all, we're going to think about identifying what went well, so things that would actually achieve a mark or a good grade in this exam. So the candidate has used an appropriate feature for an article, and we can see that there when we have things like the headline, which is TV trauma, are TV shows affecting the way we behave. It's also good because they've used a rhetorical question in there as well. We also have the organisational feature of subheading down here as well. A range of language techniques have been used. So if we look at this a little bit closer, you can see that they are using things like a group of 3 or a triplet, and we can see that in the very second sentence there. So through it we've experienced joy, that's the one thing, sadness, that's number 2, and even horror. So there you go, you've got joy, sadness and horror. So you can see there they're starting to talk about the 3 different things that they associate with watching TV. Also, they've used a lot of this second person word we, the personal pronoun we, to suggest that we are all in it together. So that's a good thing to do because it helps connect with the audience as well. Also, you think about, it says we are watched and we are glued to the screen. You can't literally be glued to the screen. So what they're doing there is using a metaphor or even hyperbolic language, over exaggeration, to express their point. We also have a fantastic discourse marker here, which again is used to organise or link our ideas with the word however. We also have the professional opinion from Oxford University. Again, this is not a real statistic, it is one that they've made up, and we can see that they've gone there and mentioned the 90%, which is good as well. Next thing then, there is some evidence of varied vocabulary. If you actually look at this teacher comment, you can see the word some, and this implies that they might have used a few good words here, but ultimately we'd like to see a few more for a higher mark response. EBI, that's even better if. So use a range of punctuation effectively. So even though this is generally quite a good response, the punctuation is quite limited. We do have full stops, we have commas, and we have a question mark, but we don't have any colons, semicolons, parenthesis, anything really there that can show me this person knows how to use a wide range of punctuation. And vary your sentence structure for effect. If you don't vary your sentence structure, it's going to sound very repetitive, it's going to just go on, and it's not really going to capture the attention of the audience. Varying your sentence structure is also very important because it allows us to see which bits you feel particularly passionate about, which things we need to think about a bit more, and which things are kind of a bit confusing and uncertain in terms of how you're trying to express yourself. So if you'd like to have a go and actually have a go at this mock assessment, then please do have a go. Use this example to help you, and if you want anyone to look at it or anything like that, please do give us a comment and we'll try and give you any feedback that we can. If you need any additional support or help, the new videos will be added every single week. Alternatively, you can leave us a comment, like and subscribe, and we'll try and get back to you as soon as possible. If you still can't find quite what you're looking for on our channel, please do check out our partner channel, Bookworm Teaching, for more lessons and guidance on all things English. Thanks a lot for listening, guys, and best of luck with all of your work and revision in the future.